Hey guys, welcome to another video on Bharat and Germany. My name is Bharat, and in today's video, I have Arvind from Namaste from Norway with us. And I want to have a very healthy discussion with him about what kind of things make Norway special. We all know about that Norway also has free education, and his videos have been blowing up all over the YouTube. So I wanted to bring him over and discuss with him a few questions that a lot of you were asking. So, Arvind, thank you so much for joining in for this call. And tell us a bit about yourself. How did the idea of Namaste from Norway started? What do you do? Give us a bit of a background.
Okay, so first of all, thank you, Bharat. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, right? Bharat?
Yes,
Yeah,
Bharat.
Bharat. So the punchline or a tagline for us is like Namaste from Norway, right? So basically, how did the idea start? I will start with that. So I think yours was the first channel which I think started this, series of like the incipient stages of this thing, right? So I think it was your channel. So when we started a YouTube channel, so I had a look at your channel as well, that okay, what kind of content people are doing. So we knew that people in Norway are not doing that stuff. So I think you are the inspiration. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
And about myself, so my name is Arvind Kepret, and together with my wife, we have a channel which is called as Namaste from Norway. And I have my master's and PhD from Norway, and currently I am associate professor of mechanical engineering in one of the public universities in Norway. So that
That's
is
very
yeah,
fancy. That's very nice.
yeah, it's fancy in terms of words.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Yeah.
And can you also tell us a bit like how did you get there? Like how did you get to the idea of like coming to Norway?
Yeah. So basically, it dates back to I think 2011. So before year 2011, I never knew that there is a country called as Norway, right? So I was working in Reliance Industries that time as a pipeline engineer, and one of our colleagues, he had actually gone to Stavanger, which is a city in Norway, and he was studying over there. So he came back to Reliance, because he found a job in Stavanger. So he came back to resign. And then I asked him, that guy, buddy, I haven't seen you in the past 1.5 years. Where have you been? So he said that, oh, I left the company and I am actually pursuing my master's from Norway. I said, what is that? So he said, just Google. So that was for the first time. I Googled about Norway and I found out that it's a mushroom shaped country, long country. So it was this guy who actually told me that you can also apply if you have good scores in bachelor's. And since Norway is kind of oil capital of the Europe, I would say, and Stavanger is oil capital of Norway, most of the head offices are over there. So I just, I never have had a dream of studying abroad. So I just applied casually without any consultancy. I just applied and I got through, and I just applied to that particular university only when I said, okay, there's fun, because it's as I will discuss, that there is no tuition fees, just like Germany, and there is no even application fee. You don't. So it was just free. You just have to pay for IELTS. So I just applied for it. So it was by fluke that I ended up in Norway for 2 years initially, which is now 8 years.
Yes, that's very cool. And like was it like you came for masters first and then like you also did PhD?
Yes. So initially, I came for masters in 2012, and the masters was in subsea and marine technology, which is purely related to oil and gas. Since I had an experience of 5 years in the same, I would say, field, so it was an extension of my work experience. And then after completing my masters, an opportunity came up of a PhD, again related to pipelines and piping, and I continued my PhD. So unlike US, it is not that your masters get converted into PhD. So there is a different process for that, and for that we have covered. If somebody is interested in doing PhD, we have already covered covered that topic in the video. So then I did my PhD for 3 years, and after that I started to work for a company called the Norsk Veritas, which is again into pipelines and a lot of stuff. And recently, I think 1st of June 2020, I entered academia as associate professor. So yeah, so that's my story.
That's very nice. Now, dating back to the, let's say, the 2011 time, right? So when you decided to, let's say, okay, like, let's think about like Norway and stuff. How would you say, how much did no tuition fee play a role in your decision? Because I know for me, it was very important that like when my family was actually thinking about, sending me abroad, they couldn't do it in bachelor's because it was just costing a lot, especially for Canada and stuff. So they said, okay, you wait a bit, you just go for masters. It has a shorter stay, and then like maybe you learn a bit more about Germany and stuff. Till that time, I understood that okay, Germany doesn't have any kind of tuition fee whatsoever. So I decided, yes, I want to go to Germany because I will not be putting any extra pressure on my parents, because I saw everybody else going to US and like taking massive debts and stuff. So what is your thought behind it?
Yeah, I think so. As I mentioned, by the time I decided to go to Norway, I was already working. I had 5 years of experience. I had some amount of savings, not like the huge. I wasn't a millionaire, but definitely I think it was a huge. I would say it was a huge point which I kept in mind that okay, there is no tuition fee. Even if I don't get a job, I can come back, right? It's and my main aim was to get exposure of how it is, how how you are taught in the foreign universities, because back in India I wasn't from a very tier 1 or tier 2 college. I was just from the roadside college, we call them, like private colleges like PTU, right? So the exposure of mechanical engineering in terms of study was not that great. So but as I mentioned, it was never my dream to go out and study, right? It just happened, I just applied. But since it was easier for me to convince my parents, I wasn't taking any money. And when you sell this stuff that okay, the education is free, then everybody gets kind of astonished. Okay, yeah, why not go for it? So I think it plays a major role, yeah, whether you are from opulent family or not.
I also like, I think it's very important to let people know that like in case you will not be able to like afford education abroad right away, because free education doesn't mean that it will not cost a penny. Like it costs, like you're having some kind of financial security that you have to show to the government. In Germany's case, it's 10,332 euros that you have to show every single year. And Arvind, what is in Norway? Do you have any idea or do you remember something?
I think during my time, 2012, it was 92,000 NOK. So if we say that the conversion of NOK to euro is 10, just for the case of simplicity, so you can say it was 9,200 euros back then. But in today's, by 2021, it is around 12,000 euros, which
Right.
is
Makes sense.
for 1 year sustenance allowance.
And I was like, comparing all of these like living costs like between Berlin and Oslo. I mean, I have to like say that Berlin definitely is like amongst the cheaper cities, also like, within Germany itself. But I also see that like the prices and stuff like in Norway is like generally higher. Do you think like this maybe a bit higher amount is because that the living expenses are higher in Norway?
See, I think the first thing which I would like to mention, that in Norway we don't produce a lot of stuff. Everything is imported. So I mean, just if we see that tax and all that stuff, so because of all of these taxes, things become expensive. And in general, I think Norway is one of the most expensive countries to live in. And sometimes we actually go either to Sweden or to Germany to get our groceries, and it is really 1/3 is the cost. That is what we have found in the past 5-6 tours which we have either to Germany or Sweden. So definitely it is expensive.
I know it from my in-laws side. Like, so some of the people are living in Switzerland and they generally like, take the car to Germany, they fill everything up in the grocery store and then they drive back. And we have also seen the same thing. So right now we are living in Denmark because Alina's business is here. And when in Germany, we were just paying 300 to 400 euros every single month for groceries. Here we are paying at least 700 to 800 euros every single month. And we don't even know like, how these like costs come up all of a sudden. We go to the grocery store, we buy some normal stuff. All of a sudden it's 40 euros or 70 euros. And I'm like, how is it
Exactly.
possible? Yeah. So I think
Yeah,
like Scandinavia in general, like, it's pretty expensive. Also, I think VAT is amongst the highest, like it's 25% VAT in EU.
yeah.
And this is also like, I think, one of the major reasons. Okay, perfect. So we talked about the living expenses a bit. Now, what would you say about the job opportunities in Norway?
So see, I think if you are, for example, a mechanical engineer, you are into oil and gas, so I would say you have a fair chance. IT, data science, machine learning, this is picking up, right? Because of the digitalization, and everything is now app based. And then cybersecurity is picking up, blockchain. So a lot of things related to IT, they are picking up. I know a couple of guys who have found a job, and they were in India and they found a job. And if the reason for that is that the skill is in demand. So in these two sectors, I would say it is definitely picking up. Then renewable sector, that is also something which the student should look into. So these three sectors, but primarily it's the engineering dominated jobs. because over there you don't require that much of Norwegian language, the proficiency in Norwegian language. Rest for everything, I would say that you must have a working command of the Norwegian language, and that becomes one of the impediments for the students to find a job. Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, like if you think about it, like Norway, I'm very surprised like how they still like, survive in like such cold winters and everything. But they still manage to be the world's 28th largest economy. And like when you have Germany, it's the world's fourth largest economy, and this is the largest economy in Europe. So I like pulled out some numbers to do some kind of like small research. And Germany has 3.47 million companies. Norway has 416,000 companies. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, Arvind. Norway has 10 public universities. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And
Only.
Germany has around 189 public universities. So, like, you definitely see a difference here. But I think, like, one thing where I have to definitely kind of admit is that, like, in Scandinavian countries, what I have realized is that, like, people are a lot more comfortable in English. So, like, you can go anywhere and, like, you can talk to them in English. But in Germany, like, I think the having a good command of German language is very important. So if you're coming to Germany, having B1 or something is important. So is it the same experience, Arvind? Like in Norway, do you get to talk to people in English like just fine, or do you think like
Yeah, yeah. I think it's
Okay.
totally fine. I'll just narrate an incident today. So, we met a family. I mean, they had a small, they are Norwegians, right? So, they had a small daughter. We didn't know them, and she was eating this lollipop, and she started to talk to my daughter, and my daughter also demanded the same thing in English, though she speaks in Norwegian. And then the mom came to us and she offered us a lollipops in English. So, I think English is pretty common everywhere over here. Maybe the old generation, they are not that comfortable, but the young ones, the youth, for example, whether you are right from 6 years when you go to the school, so they speak very fluent English, and you don't see that resistance, right? Initially they might start to conversate with you in Norwegian, but if you say, excuse me, I don't know Norwegian, then they will come back. Because I know few of our friends, even my stage after maybe 5 or 6 years ago, it was only one line I knew about Norwegian, which is like, I don't speak Norwegian. It's like that, Can you speak English? And then they would happily do that.
how do you say that? Like I don't speak Norwegian in Norwegian.
You say that unnskyld. Unnskyld is like excuse me. Jeg kan ikke snakke norsk.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like pretty different. So in German we call ich spreche kein Deutsch. And like
Okay.
with that you're also done. I think like that's the first sentence that like everybody should learn if they don't have any
Yeah,
proficiency.
exactly. So
Yeah.
surviving here is pretty easy in
Mhm.
terms of English language, but to get a job, then the fight starts, right? So if you know Norwegian, you can get part-time job in stores, etc., everywhere. Otherwise, you're just limited to this Indian restaurants, Pakistani restaurants, etc., or some back-end jobs.
Yeah. So like data entry or like I don't know, I think these days could also be like, work from home stuff. I don't know, like some kind of website management. I know that a lot of my batchmates, they were
Mhm.
working on just like, updating the photographs and stuff on the website of a company. So things like that. I think you can find that. But I think this is the standard in European countries that we can say that if you are going to a specific country, it's generally recommended that you learn the language there. It's much easier to actually integrate. It's much easier to like, just find jobs and things like that. And you can see it anywhere. Spain, France, Italy, Austria, Norway, Denmark, and like, Germany, Poland, all of these countries. So you have this freedom of like, just choosing what kind of culture you want to like spend time in, what kind of country you want to spend time in. And I think this is one of the things which really attracted me to Europe over like USA or Canada or Australia and New Zealand and things like that. So, and if I may ask you, like, what do you think? Like, what is the benefit of Europe? Like, would you choose Europe over other countries, or like, what is your thought there?
Bharat, the point is, in India, we are influenced by American movies, right?
Yeah.
So the point is, a lot of people, they don't know about Europe, right? And maybe few countries they know about Germany, France, but there are, I would say, a whole lot of countries which are out there, right? The good part about Europe, which I think, is that they have an integrated culture, which I think is missing in US. US is a multicultural land. Likewise in Canada, it's like the land of immigrants, they say. But in here, you have a culture which they have preserved over the years, and once you come here, you try to become a part of it. If, for example, you speak, you follow their traditions, you speak Norwegian language, and just consider an example of Norway, then I think it becomes fairly easy and you learn something new. And they are also, ready to reciprocate with you, tell them a bit about your culture, etc., etc. So I think that is one thing. Another thing is Europe is very much concerned about the environment. That is my personal view, especially in Norway or in Germany. And the family life, they give a lot of importance to the family life. I am not considering East European countries, but maybe few of the good ones. So here the work-life balance is very good, especially in the Nordics. It's very good. And I think that is one reason, because I have been to US for 3 months as a researcher. And in 3 months, I could gauge the amount of work people do. So I was like, okay, never man. It's good to see it in movies, but in practicality, it's really very difficult. Just one last explanation, that is about how the infrastructure of the country is developed. That can also tell you a lot. For example, in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and in Germany, you will find a lot of things which are easily accessible to the children. Everything is designed around children. So they lay a lot of emphasis on children. I think this free education is one of the things based upon. So this thing, that they lay emphasis on children, which is their future. And that is why I think, which is again the part of culture and everything. So they have a very caring nature for their families, etc., etc. And that is highlighted in the workplace as well. If you leave your company meeting stating that I have to pick up my kid at 3 p.m. from the kindergarten, that is a very valid reason. Nobody will frown upon you. I know in Norway for sure. So I think these are the things which I personally like a lot. I have actually a video about this, workplace culture shocks, which is, I have tried to demonstrate some of the points over there. So I think this is the thing which attracted me to Europe or helped me to stay in Europe.
Yeah, that's actually very nicely summarized. I couldn't have done it better. So I also feel the same way. For me, of course, I'm in a different stage in life right now where my focus was still a lot more on finances. That okay, if I want to go to a country, because I'm not earning myself, I think it was very nice that you were earning at that time. That was a good thing. And I also believe that people who cannot afford to go abroad right now to even free education countries like Norway or Germany, instead of thinking that you have to get there the next year or something, take some time and kind of build that financial cushion that you need to survive in a different country when you're actually planning to go there. So for me, this was very important that okay, Germany, for example, has free education, so does Norway. That I can actually go to Germany. I learned German because I didn't want to fight for jobs at the end or something. And everything worked out pretty nicely. So I didn't end up doing a job or something. I started my own business, but I think it was still pretty nice. All of the batchmates I saw didn't have major problems. Even now during the COVID times, people have been still able to find jobs at banks, at management consulting companies, and things like that. And that is very positive. And let's say, I think a last thing, because I think we don't get to talk to associate professor in every single video. So how is the curriculum, would you say, about the universities? Because I think in Europe, of course, we have seen it's better than India, because in India we have a lot of theory. Do you see the same thing now as a professor, associate professor in the universities?
Being a student in India, being a student in Norway, and now being on the other side as a teacher, I would say that, let's consider bachelors of engineering. So in each semester, I believe we study 6 subjects, right? So the amount of subjects that we study in 4 years is approximately equal to 48, right? Which is a lot. And in India, I would say the major difference is that you have to memorize the formulas, etc., etc. So a lot of emphasis is laid on the memorization and maybe understanding of the concept, but that is purely theoretical, right? But in here, they don't lay emphasis on memorizing of the formulas. You have to give a formula sheet separately, whether it is a simple formula like F is equal to ma, although they can memorize it, but as a teacher you have to give that. If I'm giving them a numerical which involves this formula, I have to give them, and if I don't give them, then they can complain it, right? So the point is, they have this focus on, you don't have to memorize, you have to show your applied knowledge. So that is one thing. But I think so, in India, since the competition is huge, so we are pressurized to do a lot of things. Since we are pressurized to do a lot of things, some of them who kind of pass that filter, they rise very high up in the life. But those who don't, for them the system is crushing them, and then they will abuse them. So unfortunately right now a lot of students are being crushed because of this system. So there is a huge gap. But in here, since the population of Norway is even less than Himachal Pradesh, they are just 5.1 million, and Himachal Pradesh is 7.8 million, right? 51 lakhs or 77 lakhs, something like that. So out of 51 lakhs of the not just student of the population, so the students, even if they don't study that much, they will end up any job in here. And plus there is a flat hierarchy. A driver or a PhD, they earn approximately the same in Norway. Taxes and all that, they are designed in such a way that there is not a huge differences in the salaries. So I think Indian system works best because we are a lot of people. You can't follow the system in here. But yes, I think in IITs and all, they might have a very different procedure. I don't know about that. As I mentioned, I was from this college where you just cram and go, but it worked for me. So that is one thing. But here, yes, more emphasis on practice, on the skills which are required in the job market. For example, if you are a mechanical engineer, so you might be familiar with this. So structural analysis you have to do this. There are softwares, there is a language MATLAB which you have to learn, because that will generate employability. And during my course of the bachelor's in India, I never heard about them. Forget about practicing, I never heard about them. Yeah.
I remember. So I'm from civil engineering background, but we had the finite element analysis, the finite element methods like subject and stuff, but we did nothing at all during our bachelor's. But here,
Yeah.
like I saw in the FEM class, the first thing they started with was MATLAB, and like
MATLAB.
some kind of basic formulas in the starting. And I was like, that's definitely a step up. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that's very cool insight, Arvind. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Do you have anything else you would like to share with us?
One thing, just as an addition to what you said, but I would like to give it a different angle. So, after bachelor's, I don't recommend anyone directly to come either to Germany or to Norway, whatever the reason is, right? Whatever the countries. And the reason is because once you gain 2 or 3 years of experience, right, then try to come to these countries, because then the chances of landing a job will be very high. Because I found a job, because I would like to tell you that during my masters I came to Norway August 2012, and I got my first interview September 2012, right? And I got a job, I landed a job in October 2012 within 3 months. But I started in February. And the reason was, it was not like I was a student. The reason was I had 5 years of experience of a pipeline engineer, and I knew the demand was there. So I pursued my masters and my work full time. So it's not just me, a lot of students, they have done the same thing. And we recently made a video with one of the girls who is from Karnal, your state, and she worked 2 years in Infi in India, and during her master thesis itself she landed into a job because of the work experience. So that is one of the things, right? Because I believe students are not coming to Norway or Germany just to get the exposure, right? It's not their curiosity which is driving them. It's that, okay, they want to have a better lifestyle, they want to land into a job, so have some work experience. And as you said, it will develop this financial cushion, you can make some savings. So think ahead, think proactive. That is one of the things. And whatever field you are in, just see in which direction is the wind moving. For example, what is the employability in? So learn that thing. So I think if you follow that far-sightedness, then you will end up in some good place. Yeah.
That's pretty cool insight. Thank you so much, Arvind, for sharing that and telling us about your experience of living in Norway. How was it to come there, and about your own background. For part 2, guys, don't forget to check out our video on Arvind's channel, Namaste from Norway. The link for that I'm going to put in the description, and I'll see you there. Bye.